All right, everybody, welcome back to Reviews by Hunter. That's me, I'm Hunter, and today we have another Jujutsu Kaisen review. This episode is episode 6, titled Cog. Listen, guys, it feels like I'm saying this often, but man, maybe one of my favorite episodes of the entire season, just out of nowhere. Let's just dive straight into this. I really enjoyed this episode from start to finish. So we begin this episode with seeing Megumi just chilling, lurking. What's that expression? Chilling like a villain, just lurking in the shadows. And he takes out one of the security guards as they try and get closer and closer to where Hikari is. We see Kirara moments before she calls Hikari, putting it together that Megumi and Itadori must be from Jujutsu High because they're with Panda, who she does recognize. But Itadori is a first year. I cannot believe that I can't remember if Megumi is a first year or second year. He should be a first year, right? That's why Kirara does not recognize him, but she puts two and two together. And so then she calls Hikari to alert him that something is up. So we see a fight break out between Megumi, Panda, and Kirara, as Megumi uses Demon Dog against Kirara, but it seems like it's reflected back at him. I was watching this thinking, okay, so maybe her ability is just that. Maybe it reflects things back at the opponent that cast the ability, but there's more to it than that. You see, Panda physically was unable to get into range of Kirara. He's literally like trying to walk towards her, but he's almost like walking in place. He can't get any closer. So then I'm like, this is Jujutsu Kaisen. Of course, it's going to be some very complicated like ability, and I'm gonna have to like do research on it to figure out how it actually works, which is exactly what happened with this episode. But moving on, we also see that Megumi also notices he was unable to separate from Demon Dog as well. So there was another aspect of her curse technique, or their curse technique, going on during this fight. And I was watching it thinking, I do not know what in the world Kirara is capable of. It seems like she's able to do so much. She can reflect attacks, keep opponents away from her, like a certain distance, and then also can stick a cursed technique user, Jujutsu sorcerer, to a cursed like object or cursed summon, something along the lines of that. Now, moving on, Megumi and Panda are attempting to convince Kirara that they are on their side and not from Jujutsu High, which I thought was funny that they're trying to convince her of that while actively attacking Kirara, but hey. So it turns out that Megumi and Panda do refer to Kirara as they. There was a part in the episode where it says, "Oh my gosh, they don't believe us," while they were talking to Kirara. So for those that were kind of interested in whether Kirara is a woman or a man, I still don't know. I mean, they go by they, so Kirara could have been born a man and then presents feminine, or maybe they are a woman but it presents feminine and still just goes by they. But that's how they refer to Kirara in the show. Anyway, Megumi figures out Kirara's technique, and dude, Megumi was so badass in this episode, bro. He's not the strongest sorcerer. Like, he can hold his own, he's capable, but this episode especially, I think, highlights where Megumi really shines, and that's battle IQ. He is so freaking smart, dude. Oh my god. And even though sometimes I genuinely am having a hard time following along with, I guess, the X's and O's of how cursed techniques work and cursed objects and spirits, and well, if this happens, then that happens, and then this is multiplied, and then we subtract that, and this creates reverse technique, cursed energy healing, like, sometimes I get lost in the sauce, but I can just tell that Megumi is almost just like he's just processing things so fast, and it's really fun to watch. He figures out that Kirara's technique is based on a constellation called Southern Cross, and we also find out that this technique is called Love Rendezvous. I'm gonna admit to you guys, watching it, I had no idea how the ability worked, even as Megumi is trying to piece it together, and as Kirara is kind of also giving hints on how it works. I had to look it up. The best way to explain it is that Kirara's ability is sort of like she marks people, and though the people that she marks are See, now, even right now, it's like you are a part of her constellation now, meaning it's almost like connect the dots. Panda wasn't able to get close to Kirara because he was trying to approach her in the wrong order. You have to go in the correct order. It's kind of like connect the dots. So a constellation that's marked, that is technically in the back of Southern Cross, cannot simply just walk up to a constellation that maybe is marked in the front if there are other constellations in between those. You have to know what order that you can move in. If you couldn't figure it out, then just Kirara infinitely could keep you away from them if you're not able to understand how the technique works, right? It doesn't seem to have any offensive capabilities that we see. Like Kirara can, through the rules of her own technique, she's able to like launch certain objects at people because they know the order. But Megami is slowly unraveling what this is, and eventually, Megami also he figures everything out. He's like, okay, I get how this works now. But Kirara starts worrying if Megami is going to be able to figure this out. Even Kirara admits, oh crap, if he puts all these pieces together, they're going to be able to get to the control room where Hikari is. So they implied that there is a way to outsmart Kirara's cursed technique. There was a lot about stars and math and positioning of stars, okay? It was a lot at first, but I think I get the gist of it now. So, yeah, Megami's badass. He's like a mix of like Sasuke and Itachi in a way. I don't know how, but it just makes sense in my brain. And it makes, I love that. I think that's super cool. We then finally get to Itadori versus Hikari. Now, remember, they're not actively trying to harm Hikari and Kirara. They're trying to recruit both of them. So, Itadori refuses to dodge Hikari's punches. He refuses. Okay? And I think he says something along the lines in the episode of, I need to prove to Senpai, like, my worth, or prove to Senpai, basically just prove myself to him. Right? And we get this really beautiful scene where I felt like this episode really peaked. The visuals, the soundtrack, the character development, all of it. What happens is Itadori tells Hikari that Itadori has no passion, right? Which is a big no-no when trying to recruit Hikari. Even Megami's like, hey, knock it off, dude. What are you doing? That is the opposite of what he wants to hear. Hikari's like, well, that's disappointing. And he charges his fist with some cursed energy and punches Itadori. And Itadori is just eating these punches. And Hikari even explains, Gojo says that my cursed energy is coarser and grittier than others. It's interesting because when I did read the manga, I could have sworn that the word used was sharper and that it stung more. And that's always kind of how I imagined Hikari's punches feeling. But coarser, grittier. Okay, that's fine. You know, we kind of get the gist, right? Well, Itadori then goes on to tell Hikari that he's a cog in the machine in order to keep sorcerers for exercising curses. He doesn't have any passion. He is simply a cog that is used to help exercise curses. Keep in mind, while this scene is going on, you have Itadori in like this all red fit. It's a starry night behind him. They do the thing where they like black out his eyes so you can't actually see like his pupils or anything. It's just like the shadow covering it. He reminded me like Michael Myers. He just kept getting back up. He's getting hit by a third year sorcerer who is said to be stronger than Akoto Yuta, who is special grade when he gets going. And at one point, even Hikari was like, dude, how does he keep getting back up? He literally says, what are you made of? And it was just such a badass scene. Great character development for Yuji Itadori, although very depressing that I think this poor kid is traumatized and needs a hug. Itadori is traumatized, bro. He asks Hikari, what is your function? It was just so, the way this scene came together was very well done, dude. I was like, God dang, bro, am I a cog too? Like, I was like, dude, Itadori, I think, is very reminiscent of Geto. who was pretty much the number 2 behind Gojo. And they were like, I don't know if they were best friends, but they were certainly, I mean, I think they had a high amount of respect for each other. And Geto, who is now taken over by Kenjaku, I remember also talking about how, I feel like monotonous isn't the right word. He was talking about just how, exercising curses over and over and over, and like what it feels like. And I believe he described, because for one of the conditions of his ability and techniques is he has to like eat cursed spirits, I believe. And I remember him describing that as tasting like vomit mixed with someone took a giant dump or something along the lines of that. Like kind of just talking about how miserable his existence is, to be honest with you. And now it feels like Itadori is giving off shades of that. Like, he sees no value in himself other than I am a cog in the machine that is necessary in order to continue the extermination of curses. That is my function. That is my purpose. And he asks Hikari, what is your function? My God, dude. But again, you have the great soundtrack. Everything is tying that in together all at once. It was a really well done moment, in my opinion, man. It was a character. It's a character development that's sad but necessary, and it just reminded me, like, oh, Itadori is that dude. Itadori is the guy that told Mahito that wherever you go, I go. If you reincarnate years from now, wreaking havoc on people, I will be there to kill you again. Again, giving me just shades of like Michael Myers, but almost from a anti-hero perspective, maybe. Like, he's just gonna keep coming back because his function is to simply put curses into the ground. Okay? I love this, man. He is not your typical main character. A lot of main characters, they have grandiose sort of goals, I'm going to be the Hokage. I'm going to be the king of the pirates. I'm going to be the strongest in the universe. Itadori is a traumatized and broken kid pulled into the world of Jujutsu sorcery, who's at this point now where he's just like, I have one purpose. I have one purpose. And if you're necessary to help me complete my purpose, then I'm just going to keep eating your punches until you acknowledge me. And Hikari does acknowledge him. Hikari was just in absolute disbelief. I already talked about that. We fast forward a little bit after they've kind of officially recruited Hikari and Kirara, explaining to them that Satoru Gojo has been sealed, explaining that a little bit about the Culling game, which, doing more research into it, the Culling game covers nearly all of Japan. The colonies simply are, it's just geography. The colonies are just, it separates where, it draws a line that separates players into different colonies throughout Japan. There are sorcerers, non-sorcerers. There are sorcerers from hundreds of years ago that have been incarnated to come back into a new era, such as Kashimo, who is finally been animated. He has like this really like bright blue hair. He is the player that has racked up a bunch of points and is killing people, and he's kind of already made a name for himself within the Culling game. And so we see a graphic comes up that says new rule to the Culling game. Rule number 9. Players shall be able to view the following information on other players: name, points, number of rules added, current colony. All of this seemed like a rule that was meant to help pinpoint a specific player that you might be looking for. Well, we didn't have to wait very long to figure it out. The person that Kashimo's looking for is Sukuna. And then a banner comes up, Culling game player, Hijame Kashimo. And then the last thing I put in my notes is, can someone give Yuji a hug? I know that this video went over 10 minutes, but gosh, I took a lot of notes on this because I just really, really enjoyed it, and I was really excited to talk about it. So I apologize for going a little bit over my goal of 10 minutes. I don't want to keep you guys too long. The last thing I'll tell you is my final rating. I rated this episode a 9.5. I really enjoyed this episode because I thought so many characters had a chance to shine. I loved the soundtracks. I loved the visuals in this. It's, again, I say it every week, every video, it's just movie quality stuff. This is dark fantasy elevated, okay? and it's just so freaking good. Now, while I may have given it a 9.5 rating, I looked it up. IMDb did give it, when I last looked it up, an 8.4. Still a very strong rating. But I think that's really all I have to talk about for this episode, Cog. And audience members, what is your function? I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, if you're so kind. Do you want to do it here? Or I'm honestly finding it's a little bit easier on the phone to do it on the phone. So first, before you do anything, oh shit.